Thanks a lot. Matthew Lee, Inner City Press. I also wanted to thank you on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access, a new group here. On a sort of wider issue regarding France, I'm sure all of you have seen that both France, the UK, and to some degree the US are all talking about arming the rebels in Syria. So I wonder, not in any way trying to make trouble for the treaty, but would transfers of weapons to those fighting Assad, how would the treaty address that? Thanks a lot.
Syria, I think you asked a very important question. The question that obviously haunts us all the time, and it's not unusual in these situations. So overall, of course, we have been very critical of the Assad regime. It's been going on for over 2 years now, and there's no question that in a proportionate sense, the number of lives and the atrocities from the Assad regime far exceed anything which you can compare with the rebels. But having said that, increasingly our reports are talking about the violations caused by the rebel groups as well. So more specifically when it comes to arming the rebels, we recently issued our position again on this issue, and really it's back to the golden rule. Our view is that assessment has to be made of the risks involved in terms of human rights violations when you arm anybody, and so no exception would be made in relation in the case of the rebel groups in Syria. You may want to add something more on that, Brian.
Well, maybe the way we approach this is the government of Syria is using a vast array of weaponry and munitions and weapon platforms to inflict atrocities, targeting civilians from the air with artillery and all manner of means. The violations are systematic and widespread. There are crimes against humanity. There are war crimes. There's absolutely no question that a total arms embargo must be imposed on the government. Everybody knows that. And the problem is that the main supplier of arms, the government of the Russian Federation, doesn't want to yield, doesn't want to comply. And of course Amnesty, we've published some reports on that just recently, and there is evidence that additional weaponry has gone in, reconditioned weaponry and parts, and the head of the Russian arms export company has publicly said that they will continue. So this is of course extremely disturbing and disappointing, because it is unlawful to knowingly aid and assist in crimes against humanity and war crimes. That itself is completely unlawful, and we need that clearly written into the Arms Trade Treaty. At the moment, it's written in Article 3.3 of the treaty, but it's not written very well because the United States put the wording in that says, for the purpose of. So you'd have to prove intent. You'd have to prove that, for instance, in this case, that the Russian government intends the crimes against humanity. And therefore that provision is inoperable. And Amnesty International, the ICRC, Oxfam, the Control Arms Campaign, all of us are saying this is simply no good. It doesn't meet the existing legal standards. If you compare that with the opposition, it's somewhat different. It's very complicated because there are a lot of different armed groups, there are a lot of different brigades. If you apply, as our Secretary General says, the golden rule, then for sure there's a substantial risk that any arms to those brigades are going to be used for war crimes, for serious abuses of human rights, and therefore those arms should not be sent. If there are changes, if there are various kinds of measures taken and the substantial risk is removed, then the situation changes. So it's a slightly different situation when you look at the one side and the other, but in practice at the moment, no arms should go to Syria.
Thank you.